Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we do another viewer request. One of you guys asked, what happens in an orc world? Now, in reality, if a human being was in an orc-controlled world, they would either be dead or slaves. It's that simple. But we can get into the domains and the empires of the orc world, because once you hear orc stories, it inspires you to create your own, or to collect your own green horde. So let's get into 40 facts about orc-controlled worlds. Orc Domains are those regions of the galaxy that are controlled by the Xenos menace known as Orcs. Across the galaxy, there are Orc realms, or Orc empires, and Orc hordes that realm the stars upon gigantic space hulks. Wherever humans have traveled, they have found Orcs. Living on innumerable worlds, on some, the Orcs dominate completely, on others they live in a state of perpetual war, and on others still they act as slave masters, bullying the local population into doing their bidding. The galaxy is vast beyond the imaginings of the most ambitious, yet this does nothing to the Orcs, as they simply do not think about it. Instead, they plow from one conquest to the next, secure in the knowledge that one day they will rule it all. There are numerous Orc empires, each spreading across the galaxy like a noxious green stain, and no system is entirely devoid of their touch. Some theorize that Orcs do not use the conventional method of interstellar travel because they follow some deep-seated, instinctual plan of galactic conquest. The truth is much simpler. The Greenskins have not mastered the art of space travel because they really do not care where they are going, only that they get to fight whatever is there when they arrive. One of the most epic Orc empires is the Orc Empire of Ullanor. To learn more about the Great Orc Empire, please check out our Ullanor video in the channel. But to examine other Orc domains further, we will speak of the most notable empires to have existed. The empires ruled by the great despot of Dragkruk and the arch-dictator of Gathrog have been at war for decades, lying to the galactic north of the Eye of Terror. The resolution of their conflict could have major repercussions. Should so vast a tide of Orcs unite, the resulting war could potentially change the face of the war for the Cadian Gate. If the forces of the Orc empires should meet Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade as they poured into the region, the Despoiler's plan for galactic conquest would be severely disrupted, quite possibly saving the entire galaxy from annihilation. Yet these two Orc empires could never be persuaded to abandon a perfectly good battle for such a noble and civilized cause. Expecting some miraculous act by Gork or possibly Mork, the empires of Dragkruk and Gathrog will fight on, blissfully unconcerned as their chance to change the fate of all slips away. During the Great Crusade era, presented to the adepts of the official militaris, is a grave threat to the security of the Imperium's eastern domains. The Gashklin Xenohold, an Orc infestation long ignored, was the pretext under which War Master Horus marshaled the combined might of the Ultramarines and Wordbearer legions at Calth. In the aftermath of Horus's rebellion, many within the Imperium have doubted whether the Xenohold ever existed, that perhaps it was a fiction to justify the removal of the 13th Legion from the Imperium's core. Yet there are some surviving accounts of Ultramarine-sponsored exploration sweeps of the region of space, including evidence of Orc attacks on the fortress world of Golsoria. If this Orc empire did exist as a credible threat to mankind, any devastation its inhabitants wreaked on the defenseless worlds around it has long been forgotten amidst the destruction brought on by Horus and his allies. Of Got's clan itself, no trace now remains to satisfy the curiosity of scholars. The Orc Empire of Caradon is the largest and most long-standing of its kind, controlled by a pyromanic berserker known as the Arch-Arsonist. Caradon has been the bane of Ultima Segmentum for countless centuries. The Arch-Arsonist counts his victories not by the worlds he has conquered, but by those left blazing in his wake. His legendary ability of leaving even the most well-defended worlds as searing charcoal messes has garnered him a sprawling empire of greenskins devoted to this cause. Each successive warlord of Caridon takes the title of Orc Arsonist, lending the persona a kind of immortality. Until recently, the expansion of the Orc Empire of Caridon has kept to a minimum by the efforts of Chief Librarian Varro Tigerius and the Space Marines of the Ultramarines chapter. Yet in the face of increasing Tyranid threat, their successes have begun to wane. The current Orc Arsonist has seized his chance to invade Ultramar, swearing that he would reduce Macragge itself to cinders. The Archmaniac of Calverna rose to power after conquering the Forge World of Magnos Majoris, the Iron Heart of the Calveran system. The wily old Death Skull warlord then cemented his power for good by having himself wired into the almighty central processing engine of the Forge World, turning himself into the biggest cyborg ever seen. Though this rather drastic step has left the Archmaniac all but invincible, the vast data streaming pouring into his tiny brain have also driven him quite mad. So it is that, while the orcs of the Calvernaran Empire are numerous and well equipped with tanks and guns, their attacks are random and display little in the way of logic or coherent strategy. Zet was a former feudal world colonized by humanity during the Dark Age of technology. Home to a simple feudal society, they were cut off by fierce warp storms that surrounded the subsector, known as the Wheel of Fire. Unable to leave, the orcs that inhabited this sector made war upon the worlds of this subsector. For over 50 years they ruled Zet, enslaving much of the human population and forcing others to hide in the forests, until the arrival of an imperial crusade, chiefly made up of a large force of the Space Wolf chapter. Zet was the last world attacked by the fierce Astartes during their 5-year mission to pacify the system. It is not known if Zet was completely cleansed of the orc presence. A former prosperous imperial world named Heroclix. It was discovered during the Dark Age of technology. Human settlers flourished upon it until it was invaded by orcs and conquered during the Age of Strife. The planet was reconquered by the Dark Angel's Legion during the Great Crusade, but in the middle of the 32nd millennium, it was conquered by a massive orc wall. It was the largest recorded orc invasion, with dozens of conflicts raging across all 5 segmentums. Soon this planet's sector became conquered by the orcs. Renamed Orc, the planet was held by the orcs for the next 8,000 years. This world became known as the birth world of the infamous Gatsgul Mag Uruk Thraka. To learn more about this world and Thraka, please check out our 40 facts on Gatsgul Thraka. It was here that he received the visions of conquest from Gork and Mork. When the star which orbited Orc began to die, Gatsgul convinced his fellow orcs to build a massive space hulk, and once completed, launch a vessel into orbit to begin his Green Crusade. As the planet's star began to die, it is assumed that since then the planet has become uninhabitable of life. The planet Gregus was an orc-held world controlled by a wily band of orc freebooters. In the 345th year of the 37th millennium, they came into conflict with the Dark Eldar Cabal of the Poison Tongue. Incensed that mere barbarian greenskins should deny her of her will, Lady Aurelia Malice personally engineered the orc downfall. Capturing a muscle-bound orc knob, Lady Malice's cabal made planetfall weeks later, fighting her way into the center of the orc capital city, and impaled the barely living captive upon a half-built gargant. The corpse began to shed millions of spores into the air, each of which bears a cargo of terrible wasting toxins. As the infested orcs corrupt the orcoid reproductive cycle, the population of Gregus grows weaker and weaker. When Malice returns, it is a simple matter of slaughter the survivors. Jaga was an orc-held world controlled by Captain Blackgit and his Orc freebooter warband, the Star Krumpas. His considerable kill cruiser fleet had been the bane of the Imperial shipping within the southern segmentum Ultima for many years, until Jaga and its defenders were attacked by Tyranid Hive Fleet Behemoth. The Orc pirates put up a vicious resistance and gave the aliens their toughest fight by this point. However, in the end, the planet was consumed of all life by the Tyranids. In the 926th year of the 41st millennium, a single regiment of Catachan II Regiment of Imperial Guard troopers, led by Colonel Strachan, is the only regiment to survive planetfall during the Dulma Lin cleansing. Under the Colonel's order, the Catachan Regiment fights a year-long guerrilla war in the subterranean depths of the planet's caverns, earning a fearsome reputation amongst the Orc tribes. Eventually, Imperial forces successfully cleared the planet of its Orc presence. Koroninth was an Imperial world that was captured by Orc warboss Skargor the Despoiler and his Orc Wa, and became the seat of his Orc Empire in that region. In the 689th year of the 41st millennium, the Koroninth Crusade was launched, conceived and led by the legendary chapter master of the Ultramarines, Marneus Calgar. The crusade comprised the combined force of the Ultramarines, Angels of Absolution, Lamenters, Silver Skulls, Scythes of the Emperor, and the Marine Errata chapter, as well as over 50 Imperial Guard regiments. In the 705th year of the 41st millennium, Skargor himself was called by Ultramarines chapter Ancient Galatan. Galatan was a famous standard bearer of the Ultramarines chapter's Sacred Banner of Macragge. During a fierce battle, he briefly dropped the sacred standard when his arm was chopped off by warboss Skargor. While distracted with trying to break the banner with his power claw, Ancient Galatan impaled his power sword through the back of Skargor's head, killing him instantly and breaking the spirit of the Greenskins, though he later died from the wounds incurred in this encounter. The banner of Macragge remains upright for the remainder of the battle, rallying the Ultramarines to a final defeat of the Orcs. Baron is a feudal world of rolling blue oceans, expansive forests, and rolling steep land. It was originally an Eldar Exodite world, but was conquered by the Orcs of Wa Arbuts in the late 41st millennium. By the 224th year of the 41st millennium, an Imperial crusade passed over the world and finally liberated from the Orc overlords. And those were 40 facts about Orc Domains. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love talking about orcs. I'm an orc player myself, so when I saw this request, I had to do it. I feel like the channel is covered in a bunch of orc lore videos. If you haven't checked them out, please jump on over to the channel, subscribe, and check them out. And you know, now that somebody requested it, I was like, this is my chance, more orc lore. But if you guys have any more suggestions, please comment them down below. I would be happy to read them and make research more lore for you guys. Thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, and sharing. And I'll catch you tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.